to this one right here. You can see it's sort of a cross with a curve to it on the bottom. Yeah, very, very similar. It's interesting. And there's this one here that sort of looks like a leaf that might be similar to this one. There's one up above here that he said that is exactly like this one. He said the Chavante Indians say it's the big river in the sky, which I presume they're talking about the Milky Way. It's a curved like this, and then it has some down pointing lines to it. That is the drawing that they have up there, which is identical to this one. You know, the skeptic in me says, did somebody come by, 20 years ago and sort of graffiti it, or is this all Indian graffiti? Does it mean anything?
Well, I'm glad James brings it up. To me, this doesn't look really convincing. To be honest, these carvings don't look a bit like the drawings in the manuscript. Besides, are they authentic? Someone might have carved these signs in the wall last summer. Who knows? When we make our way back to the base camp, we run into a surprise.
For many years, we are feeling that this place, mountain of Roncador, has a special meaning for us. We don't know if it's because the shape of the rocks or some kind of inner feeling that we feel, but exactly at this place that we are now, we can feel some kind of communication or resonance with the mountain. If you have a profound state of meditation, you can communicate with these rocks and these mountains so deeply, so deeply. We believe that you can go further and go into the rocks. You can go into some kind of tunnel, but for some reason, until now, we're not able to find. And maybe Fawcett could have found some kind of these ones. I believe he found not a lost city, but a found city. A city that have much more respect or much more real connection to the earth. Yesterday we were here for the first time in this right place, and we realized that this side of the rock,
This side behind me.
Yes, this side had a little much more capability to connect with us than the other side. I don't know why, but you can put one hand or both hands in the rock, and in a few seconds you can feel some kind of wave that you will feel something like this. A small movement to the right and to the left. If the rock and you could for a moment be just as one, okay? You don't have to worry about the plants or little animals or insects or any kind of that. Just feel. Just feel.
What am I doing here? I mean, true. The inscription on Fawcett's ring said, "They fear no obstacles," but it didn't say, "They walk through walls."
You first.
I don't know. It's spiritual in ways, but I really didn't feel any energy.
We may just not be spiritual enough.
Yeah.
Before we leave, our meditating friends tell me that in daily life they are medical doctors in a regular hospital. James knows that since Fawcett's disappearance, many people have hoped to find a lost world of some sort here. And in recent years, spiritual tourism is booming. I'm excited and intrigued by the anthropology of it, and I asked James what he thinks happened to Fawcett.
The 4 versions that exist that I know of, there may be more versions, but the first one being that the Kalapalo Indians actually clubbed him, killed him, buried him. This was a story that was the version of what happened to Fawcett for years and years. More recently, the Kalapalo have said no, that they really didn't kill them. They are not at blame for Fawcett's disappearance, and that he actually walked off into the forest and disappeared, and they never heard from him again. So that's one. The other one is that, in fact, he did find what he was looking for. He found this lost city that has not yet been discovered. I find that very hard to believe nowadays with satellite imagery and with all the deforestation that's gone on. Something would have been found from a physical sense. And then there's the metaphysical version that, in fact, he did pass on, but passed on as a living being into another dimension, and that, in fact, he's still there. I support the more practical version that he got in over his head. The Indians did not kill him. He moved on and died in the jungle.
Well, I can imagine he died in the jungle. I'm exhausted after only one long day of climbing. Imagine doing that for months in a row, with no shelter at night, with mosquitoes and black fly and ants and jaguars around you, and without even knowing if you're going to find what you're looking for. All night long, I have these confusing dreams of a tall man appearing and disappearing in the distance of the jungle. Next day, we decide to travel on and say goodbye to James Lynch, who stays behind to enjoy a bit more of the spiritual environment. Secretly, I'm a bit disappointed that we didn't find any evidence for Fawcett's city. The same disappointment that Fawcett's only remaining son, Brian, must have felt when he visited this place in the 50s. In a footnote, Brian writes the following about his father. The area where he believes Zed to lie has in recent years been regularly flown over by domestic airlines, and no trace of an ancient city has been reported. It is true that remains of incalculable age have been found thereabouts, but no city. So, no city. But does that mean that my hero had it all wrong? I can hardly believe it. For when we look at his art, for instance, he must have been a great observer. And he was a surveyor. He had to be meticulous. So somewhere his suppositions must be valid. When I reread his whole work, I notice there is one striking observation. I am probably the only one who knows the secret, and I obtained it in the hard school of forest experience. Nevertheless, both native and foreign scholars of considerable erudition in Brazil agree that an old and forgotten civilization can be the only key to the riddle of the remarkable pottery and inscriptions that have been discovered. Pottery and inscriptions, that might be the key to the riddle. Maybe Fawcett wasn't as foolish as some say. I'm going to meet a journalist called Charles Mann, who recently published a magnificent book that might shed a whole new light on this matter.
He was kind of right about what he was looking for. And a lot of the sort of serious, sober people who in the past, denigrated him were wrong. They were wrong for the right reasons, and he was right for the wrong reasons. And so it's sort of fascinating to see somebody, for completely crazy reasons, coming up with something that's a little closer to reality than what the sort of good, solid people are thinking. And this very famous archaeologist from the US, Betty Meggers, effectively suggested that you couldn't have a society larger than about 1,000 people in the Amazon because it would just destroy itself. And the reason was that the climate and the soil of the Amazon make it so that if you cut down the trees, which you need to have for agriculture, which you need to have for large-scale society, you'll wreck the land and wreck your productive base, and so you can't have large-scale sophisticated societies in the Amazon. Only very small groups can live there. And so the idea that, of course, that you could have these cities, these sophisticated places in there, that was anathema, that was impossible, ecologically impossible. And what's happened in the last decade or so, there's that a researcher named Michael Heckenberger in particular has found, I think, very compelling evidence that these kinds of cities did exist in the Amazon. He's plotted their traces. He's found, I think, compelling evidence for their existence. And oddly enough, it's not that far from where Percy Fawcett was looking for them. Totally for these mystical reasons, he's actually looking for cities where we now think that there actually were cities.
So there were cities, not just one called Zed, but Fawcett's intuition was right. Charles Mann tells us there is a research crew working right in the middle of the rainforest, and they have found spectacular evidence for these revolutionary ideas. I want to see it for myself. But before we go there, we have to take some precautionary measures.
We're not going into the jungle for 4 months or 6 months, it's just a few days. But on the other hand, you can get covered in black fly bites so that you go black in 2 days easily. Now you want to stuck your trousers into your socks, very simple procedures, and always wear at least 2 pairs, and you put this in here, and then put this stuff on your face because they like that too, and you can't defend yourself. And around the back of the neck and in your hair, it's very important, but not on your forehead. As the SAS told me, never put it on your forehead, lad. Runs into your eyes and they itch and they hurt and you can't see the enemy. So don't do that.
On the boat, we meet the lovely young archaeologist Helena Lima. She is the head of scientific research at the excavation site, and she is fascinated by Fawcett's conviction of a lost city.
Well, we have to take the shoes off to go inside.
So here I am, standing in my socks in the middle of the rainforest, in a hole like a mass grave. With Fawcett's disappearance in mind, that is rather scary. But in this hole lies the solid scientific proof that Fawcett's observations were right.
You can find ceramic shards, ceramic remains. This is totally indicating human presence, massive presence here in the area. It's very, very dirty, but there are drawings here.
Lots and lots of drawings on it, yes.
Can you see here? Yeah, something circular here. And then
a straight line there, some little nicks in it.
Yeah.
Spooky.
Yeah,
I think somebody doing that right here. Yeah? Must have been a lot of swearing going on there. I mean, a lot of pots are broken.
Yes, yes.
Screaming and yelling. Yeah?
These ones here we have collected the previous days.
That's huge.
Yes, this is a nice one. This used to be a small plate.
Oh, wow.
You see?
Beautiful little plate.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, these tiny bits of pottery mean a revolution in the way we have to think about the population of the rainforest. And what makes it even better is that these pieces of pottery are found in a thick layer of black, fertile ground that could only have been evolved by long-term human agriculture. But Helena has got more to show me.
You're gonna notice there are carvings. Yeah. There's plenty of them. They have different designs. Besides, they're all faces. It looks like human faces. Some of them are triangles, some of them are circular, some of
Wow!
them...
Finally, some tangible proof. And although these Stone Age smileys here don't look a bit like the carvings from the manuscript in Rio, I feel I am as close to the city of Zed as I can get.
Some of the ceramic assemblage, the ceramic shards we collected at the excavation unit, they have exactly the same face we find here on the petroglyph. These two blocks, they were covered by this sediment and they are carved. So it indicates that they were human worked before the river brought all this layer of sediment. By dating this deposition, we can have a minimum age of when the carvings were made.
So we don't know yet how old these carvings actually are, but they definitely were not made yesterday. And they probably date from way before Columbus.
And I want you to show us exactly where we are. This is where Fawcett was looking for his lost city of Zed in Roncador, somewhere around here.
Well, we are
Culture.
working here at the Amazon basin, and all through this area we can see spots indicating massive human presence in this area prior to the European conquest in the pre-colonial times.
So people for 2,000 miles plus.
Yes, or plus.
Maybe 100 million.
Maybe.
Yes, maybe. Wow. Some city.
Yeah. So even though he was looking for his El Dorado somewhere in Mato Grosso,
Yes.
I believe the El Dorado was all throughout the
The
Amazon.
El Dorado was so large.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, what a wonderful conclusion to a mystery.
On the journey back, it is with completely different eyes that I look at the rainforest we travelled through. It's a great thought that all this jungle might once have been a big garden tended by millions of people. So Colonel Percy Fawcett was right after all, sort of. It's just not a city of Zed, but an immense garden of Zed. A great 19th century British writer once wrote, "To believe in the heroic makes heroes." And I think he is right. Whenever possible, one should always believe in the heroic and nurture one's mind with great thoughts about great men, even if they buggered off into the jungle and never returned.
Thank you for... Nou, my
Misschien heeft u na 8 afleveringen zo ongeveer wel genoeg van Redmond O'Hanlon. Het vervelende is, hij heeft nog lang niet genoeg van u. Daarom wil de populaire verhalenverteller zichzelf en u graag in de gelegenheid stellen het samen zijn nog even te rekken. Zodra die klaar is met het instuderen van zijn tekst, geven we graag het woord aan Redmond O'Hanlon.
Thank you for watching me. Misschien zag u niet alles. Misschien keek u liever naar Boer zoekt vrouw. Never mind. You can bestel me now op DVD. If you do it now, I lig on your doormat in February.